Senator Payman, welcome to 7:30.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah.
Now, you joined the Labor Party. You were president of Young Labor in WA. You won your seat as a Labor candidate. Do you have any qualms at all now about working to defeat a Labor government?
Look, the Labor Party did this to themselves as they did not uphold the values and the principles that they put into the platform and went into government with, got all the votes from the Australian people. I remember campaigning very hard for both the state and federal election, thinking, oh my goodness, finally, after 9 years in opposition, we will have a progressive government brave enough to do what's needed, to listen to Australians loudly and proudly and do what's needed, whether it was stipulated in the platform or they went into the election with. And we've seen, unfortunately, time and time again, that bravery that the old Labor Party, or should I say the true Labor Party had, is not seen in the current leadership.
Now, you've talked about forming a party with candidates whose values align. Now, apart from that issue of Palestine, which was the trigger for you to leave at the time, specifically now, where do your values and Labor's values not align?
So Australia's Voice is going to be a party that is about inclusivity. It's about being brave and bold. It's about being pragmatic. It's about listening to Australians out there and truly understanding, finding local solutions for those local problems. And I learnt that by going through the various towns in WA and really just immersing myself in understanding what people need from their politicians.
Now, those are adjectives, but they're not specifics. Let's talk about what you said today. You said your new party will be different from the Greens by being more pragmatic and more practical. So give me an example of a policy position where the Greens have been stubborn or intransigent.
For example, the housing crisis that we're seeing unfold. Yes, the ideas may not be as bold, but it's a good start. The Greens sometimes make it seem like it's, from what I've heard from Australians, it's, either their way or the highway.
But specifically,
no
Senator, just specifically, what is it that the Greens are saying? What are they refusing to do that you think they should have agreed to?
It's about coming to the table and agreeing to things and meeting the government halfway, or meeting and being able to not hold back progressive and productive pieces of legislation, but not even that. It's about understanding the various multicultural communities out there. It's about how do we understand faith-based communities. There are more. Australia is a mature and beautiful multicultural democracy, and we need to embrace people from all walks of life. And
Sure.
I think in a place like our democracy, where we've got the likes of Pauline Hanson being able to serve her constituency while you've got me on the other side of the spectrum, it's just beautiful that we can coexist in peace.
Again, now these are generalities. I'm asking for specifics. You used the word progressive today. I mean, you were talking about the Greens. There's already a progressive party. They want recognition of Palestine. They want affordable housing. They want reform on negative gearing and capital gains. They want to address the cost of living. What are you offering specifically in policy terms that's different?
Well, we're talking about the launch of the party that happened today. And obviously, in the days to come, we will be formalising our party platform, and Australia's Voice will be consulting, talking to people on the ground and formulating a very well thought policy platform. We won't just be picking things out of the air. So again, I would love to come back to your show and talk more about the policy ideas and specifics once we've finalised them.
You say you want a party for all Australians. What coalition policies are there that you would be prepared to support?
Well, when the time comes, again, I won't be engaging with hypothetical scenarios where we don't have legislation forward that I could say yes or no to. But again, it will all be revealed in due time. But what I have heard from Australians is they're sick and tired of the duopoly that the two major parties have had, almost like a stranglehold over the Australian population, and having minor parties like Australia Voice gives them an alternative, gives them a balanced approach and an option when they hit the polls next year.
Now, whose idea was it to call your party Australia's Voice?
It was my idea. I sat down with my husband and we decided that in September, when we decided that we should have a party to ensure that all of Australians' voices are encompassed and heard when we are representing them here in Parliament. And it was amongst so many conversations that I've had with community elders, community groups, and people on the ground who were just yearning for their voices to be heard.
Now, of course, the term voice, as you know, is linked to a very painful chapter in Indigenous history. Did you think about that just days out from the anniversary of the failed referendum?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that the voice referendum failed, and the elders that I've been speaking with have told me that they are shocked that their situation and the Indigenous affairs at the moment are far worse than they were before the referendum.
This is a question about the choice of the name, Senator. So who did you consult? Who did you consult in the Uluru Dialogues about your choice of the name?
So the actual word voice came about consulting with so many people on the ground in terms of just hearing the voice. Nobody owns the word voice. I mean, there's a program on TV called The Voice. And so for me, it was about encompassing something that's inclusive and involves all Australians' voices to be heard. Unlike the Labor government, we will not be putting Indigenous issues and Indigenous affairs in the too hard basket. We will be consulting, talking and raising awareness.
Let me just ask you a question about this week. We've just had the memorial of the October 7 attack and a very divisive debate, obviously, in the Parliament yesterday. In your view, were the actions of Hamas on that day an act of terrorism or an act of resistance?
I think that question really not only ignores the 75, 76 years, but also reduces the Palestinian plight. What happened on 7th of October, I've condemned, and the atrocities, the loss of any human life is to be condemned. Any form of violence against civilians must be condemned. And we need to acknowledge that Palestinians and now the Lebanese community are hurting, but so are the Israeli communities. And this is about how do we make sure that we are raising awareness, but at the same time not isolating one group and pitting one group against another.
Just to follow up, did the State of Israel have a right to self-defence after the Hamas massacre?
We've heard from the ICJ and the ICC that as an occupying power, occupying a people, Israel does not have the right to claim self-defence. Again, I'm not a humanitarian lawyer or expert, but from what I have seen and understood, Israel's atrocities and the genocide, it continues to impose on the people of Palestine, and now crossing the borders needs to be called out. And Australia, as a friend of Israel, should play a stronger and bolder role.
You've been working closely with Glenn Jury, the man once known as the Senate Whisperer. What's the best piece of advice he's given you?
He's told me to be myself, and he has been very encouraging. But aside from being my chief of staff, I admire Glenn Jury's strength of conviction and also just the strategic knowledge and experience that he brings to my team. He knows the place like the back of his hand. He understands the networks. He understands how this place works, and I really do appreciate having him on board. Now,
the Prime Minister says you should test the popularity of your ideas. We don't know what the policies are, but the ideas. What is your justification for not testing them with voters, the voters of Western Australia, at the election?
I would absolutely be testing the voter base and the support for the values that Australia's Voice will stand for at the next election. Like I referred to it as a full body contact competition. It's going to be, pretty serious, and I know that Australians are fed up of the two major parties politicking. So
Yes,
here's
but
time for change.
I think the question is around your own position. Why not put your own position on the line and test that with the voters?
Well, I will be when I put my name on the line. My reputation will be on the line. So you can appreciate that it's not a simple task to be running a major party, not a major party, a minor party, but setting it up from scratch. It's just me and my husband at the moment. And I mean, you know, he's doing this as a full-time gig but not being paid for, which is great. And I appreciate what he does.
Senator Payman, thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.